The Pittsburgh Steelers have an opportunity to do something they have not done in 59 years, beat the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. Who are the key players that we need to look out for in this matchup? How does Russell Wilson and Arthur Smith plan to attack this top-ranked defense? And what role players are going to need to step up and fill some shoes if the Steelers are going to be victorious at Lincoln Financial Field tomorrow? Welcome to Steelers Digest. My name is Remington Kuhn. We're going to dive into all of that and more on the episode today, previewing the Steelers and the Eagles Battle of Pennsylvania tomorrow. But first and foremost, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, Steelers Digest. 99.9% of you are not yet subscribed. And if you haven't, please click that sub button, and we will provide the latest rumors, news, and analysis for your Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's dive right in. First thing that the Steelers need to do this weekend if they want to beat the Eagles is get that Russell Wilson moonball going, because Russell Wilson has been one of the best deep ball throwers in the entire NFL since he entered the league. Right now for the Steelers, he has unlocked this new passing game that they haven't had in quite some time. And I do have a graphic to prove that. The Steelers have 49 completions of 20-plus yards this season. That's already more than they had in all of 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020, and 2019. The big play passing game is finally back in Pittsburgh, something that they have desperately been missing. And we need that to be a part of the Steelers' offense if we're going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'll explain why. Just take a look at the numbers and what Russell Wilson has been able to do since he became the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, going against the Eagles is a different animal. We heard yesterday that Reed Blankenship will be playing for the Eagles, their star-free safety. And obviously, the corners that we have to look out for are Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Darius Slay still a big threat as well. Big play Slay for the Eagles. But I'm mainly looking at Quinyon Mitchell, who's most likely going to be on Mike Williams, and Cooper DeJean, who's going to be on Calvin Austin. So Russell Wilson's going to have to get that deep ball going because Quinyon Mitchell is so good at limiting number one receivers to hardly anything. He's not really willing to give a whole lot to you. So Russell Wilson's going to have to unlock that deep ball and that part of our passing game in order to really exploit the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Their defense has been really good all year. So if the Steelers really want to win this game, one thing that they have to do is get that deep ball going, and that means Russell Wilson's majestic moon ball over the top to start to, get those big plays and really stretch the ball down the field against this really good Eagles defense. The second thing that I expect the Steelers to need to do in order to beat the Philadelphia Eagles is win the trench battle. We talked about it in a previous episode here on Steelers Digest. The trench battle is so important. The Steelers' offensive line has been up for the challenge this season, and the defensive line has been even better. But when you're facing a running back like Saquon Barkley, you heard what Cam Hayward had to say about that also on a previous episode. So let's take a look at the numbers. I mean, you see that it's a top 5 defense against the number 1 rushing offense in the entire NFL, led by Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. This is a really good Eagles team. We're going to say it time and time again. Look at the record. The record will tell you, and they're on a ridiculous winning streak right now, not showing any signs of slowing down. So the Steelers have their work cut out for them this weekend. And if they're going to win this game, like I said, I got 5 keys to victory. This is the second one, is winning the trench battle. You have to limit Saquon Barkley or else you are going to lose. He can single-handedly put that Eagles team on his back and win any given Sunday. Let's look at the full breakdown. So offensively and defensively, we have the numbers right in front of you. You look at the total yards on offense. The Eagles have a top 5 offense for total yards, but they're the number 1 rushing offense with the second worst passing offense. So the Steelers' run defense has to be up for the challenge. That means Cam Hayward needs to continue to play out of his mind if the Steelers are going to come out victorious. They need the pass rush to get home, and they also need to be able to stop that run. Because if the Eagles can't throw the ball, which they have struggled to do all year, they're going to continue to feed Saquon Barkley, and that has worked for them all season long. So the Steelers have to know that is the game plan for the Eagles going in, and that steel curtain has to hold up against the running back of Saquon's caliber. And then you look at the defense. The Eagles' defense as far as yards and passing yards 1 and 2. So Russell Wilson also has his work cut out for him facing this defense. I talked about how he has to have the deep ball. The reason he needs the deep ball is because that's about the only thing you can get against this Eagles defense. I talked about Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. They are going to play as well as they can to keep these Steelers receivers at bay. And if the Russell Wilson deep ball is going, the Steelers have a better chance of winning this game, especially if Mike Williams is the one catching that deep ball, using that 6'5" frame to exploit that Eagles defense and making Quinyon Mitchell regret stepping on that field this Sunday. So that's a very important aspect of this game, is winning that trench battle. So let's move on to the next aspect of winning this game and the next method of victory. The third key to victory is next man up mentality. And there's a big reason why I say next man up mentality, and we're going to cover that right now. This is a huge aspect of this weekend's game, is that the Steelers are missing some key players on both sides of the ball. They don't have a lot of talented players that they normally have at their disposal, and Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith are going to have to really work to fix this personnel group to make sure that the Steelers have the best chance to win, which means next man up mentality. The next guy has to step up. That's what Mike Tomlin preaches, and that's what I'm going to preach here today. Obviously, 3 key injuries for the Steelers. George Pickens is out, which means Mike Williams needs to step up. Deshaun Elliott out as well, who we talked about last video, which means DeMonte KZ needs to step up for the Steelers. And then you have Larry Ogunjobi also out, a huge interior defensive lineman piece for the Steelers. So that means Keanu Benton and Cam Hayward need to be on their game. Let's move to the next graphic, which is Mike Williams said somebody has to step up. If somebody goes down, someone has to step up. It's the next man up mentality. I am willing to stand up and take that role. So Mike Williams is more than willing to step into that spotlight and be the number 1 receiver for the Steelers. He hasn't had much action, and we talked about that in a different video with this next man up mentality. Mike Williams is going to be expected to do number 1 receiver things against a defense that doesn't give up a whole lot. So it's a big ask of Mike Williams, a guy that hasn't really seen the field all that much in his Steelers tenure. He saw more targets last week than he saw in all the games prior after he was acquired at the trade deadline. So Mike Williams is going to have his best game of the season if the Steelers are going to beat the Eagles tomorrow. The next phase of the next man up mentality is Pat Freiermuth is expected to do big things this weekend. This is something that the Eagles have struggled to do in years past, is defend against the tight end. Now, Pat Freiermuth has been on a tear as of late for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has been one of their biggest assets in the passing game, and I expect that to continue in this matchup this weekend. If you look at the numbers, Pat Freiermuth has been on an absolute heater for the Steelers. Russell Wilson and him gaining a little bit more chemistry, a little bit more traction, and Pickens being out actually helps Pat Freiermuth get more targets and get more receptions and be that huge threat that the Steelers need him to be in the passing game. He's known for a lot of other things, but when Pat Freiermuth starts catching passes and like touchdowns like he did last week, this is a key player for the Steelers on offense. And if they want to beat a team as good as the Eagles, they're going to have to utilize Pat Freiermuth to the best of their ability, and Russell Wilson knows that. So they're going to continue to feed Muth, and you see the stats there, what he's done his last few games. This has been one of the best stretches of Pat Freiermuth's career playing with Russell Wilson. So I expect Russell Wilson to continue to get him the ball, and he is a huge key factor moving into the matchup tomorrow as well. Moving on to the final aspect of things, force field goal attempts. Now, the reason I say this is because Boswell has been arguably the best kicker in the NFL all season long. He has been absurd for the Steelers, whereas Jake Elliott has struggled mightily for the Eagles, especially at 50-plus yard field goals. He has yet to make a field goal over 50 yards this season. So if you hold the Eagles to field goal attempts, especially long field goal attempts, they're probably going to miss. But Chris Boswell doesn't miss. Look at this stat. Chris Boswell is on pace to break an NFL record this season. Through 13 games, he is 36 for 39 on field goal attempts, and the single season record for the NFL is 44. So if this guy's kicking field goals, and the Steelers have shown the ability to win games without scoring a touchdown in the past, they might be able to do that this weekend against the Eagles if they can kick the field goals and let Boswell do his thing and then prevent the Eagles from getting touchdowns, making those red zone stops and forcing Jake Elliott to kick the ball. That is a recipe for success against the Birds. So forced field goal attempts is my 5th and final key to victory this weekend. They do all 5 of those things that I just mentioned, they will win the game, and they will make the playoffs. They have the ability to clinch a playoff spot with a victory, and that would be a huge thing to snap that 59-year drought and clinch a playoff spot all in one. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone tomorrow at Lincoln Financial Field. We will be watching that game, and we'll have coverage for you the next day with a breakdown and a recap of Steelers-Eagles, the Battle of Pennsylvania, or as Mike Tomlin would say, the Pennsylvania State Championship. Thank you guys for watching this episode of Steelers Digest. My name is Remington Kuhn. Again, if you haven't already, press that sub button. We really appreciate it, and we will see you on the next episode of Steelers Digest.